Greetings, beautiful one, beautiful being. Today I'm going to show you a little highlight reel of some things that I've been cooking lately. Cooking gives me such joy, creating gives me such joy, and brings me back down to earth when I'm feeling stressed out, when I'm feeling out of myself. So I hope you enjoy seeing some of these beautiful dishes that I made. I love every single one of them. So let's get into it. Let's see what I made. Okay, beautiful. We are starting with one of my favorite snacks to have, and it's just a little bagel toast. That's actually some homemade sourdough bread. It doesn't look too pretty, but it is delicious. And I just toasted it up with some olive oil. Then on top, I'm putting these gorgeous tomatoes from my garden. These were so juicy, so perfect, so summertime, amazing. And I'm gonna put those on with some capers and some onions and a little salt and pepper. That's actually a vegan cream cheese that I made using almonds, cashews, nutritional yeast, and it was pretty good. It doesn't really taste like cream cheese, but it's good. And sun tea, which I've been obsessed with this whole summer. It's infused with a little bit of orange, and those peppers right there in the background, keep an eye on those because those are for the next meal that I'm going to show you. And I also topped the toast with everything but the bagel seasoning. That was my simple snack, and it was so good. Enchiladas, one of my favorite meals ever. But the star of this whole thing is a scratch-made sauce that I've actually used for many other things besides just the enchilada sauce. So these are for the filling. It's just some red potatoes. I put a little salt in there and boiled them, cooked them through a little bit. There you can see how they turned out, a little softened up. This is onion and jalapeno. The famous pico de gallo recipe. Oh, it's not famous yet?
Is it famous?
Just have a little bit of olive oil, and I went ahead and sauteed those onions and jalapenos and just get them really soft and caramelized. And this was my first time attempting to make a sauce like this, but I just freestyle it. Anything that I want to put in, whatever I have around the house, that's just what I used. And so you can see they got nice and cooked down. And this is where I'm gonna add these tomato scraps that I've been keeping. I kept these in my fridge. Every time I would gut a tomato, I would put the little guts in the mason jar and just keep it to use in a sauce as a base. And it worked really, really beautiful because those just cooked down and became a little tomato sauce. And it was so cool to use scraps, things that I would have put in my compost garden. I could cook with it. You can see how happy they got, just nice and beautiful. Oh, such a gorgeous sauce. And then I went ahead and added some water just to encourage it to cook down. And that's a little bit of bouillon stock. It's a veggie bouillon. And that's just to give it some flavor, not just the water. And I brought it up to a boil, as you can see. And once it was at a pretty good boil, I added those peppers that I had been soaking, which I went ahead and blended them up. And that was like going to be the whole smoky, spicy flavor. And it was so spicy. These are all the spices that I added. You see, I added honey just to kind of give it some balance. And then I just seasoned it to taste, as always. Let that cook off, let it cook down. It was beautiful. And my man just hard at work making that pico de gallo. I think he makes the absolute best. Okay, so this was my assembly line. I have some green chilies, some black beans that were left over. This was like a leftover type enchilada. Those are some vegan cheese shreds. That's the potato, which I seasoned up and added some things to. And you see I put the sauce down on the bottom of the pan. Went ahead and added that on top. This sauce was so spicy, by the way, but it was so good. It was so nice to have fresh because I've always wanted to make it fresh instead of getting it out of a can, which is how we normally do it. And I will also mention that this sauce, it made tons of extra, which you'll see in a second. The sauce we've used since to add into taco meat, or I guess faux taco meat. I've used it in a chili base. It's been so useful because it's like a hot sauce with a kick. It's smoky, it's spicy. It's just an amazing, like, I think I'll always make this. And so I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. And this is the enchiladas fresh out of the oven, nice and toasty and crunchy on the outside. That's how I like them. Almost burnt. And then to top it, of course, all of the fixins, pico, vegan sour cream, and guacamole, and tons of lettuce. It was so good. Okay, time for one of my favorite meals of all time, ramen. Who doesn't love ramen? And this was really simple. This was another case of me using just what I had in my cabinet. You see, I got some bell peppers, some carrots, and these amazing mushrooms. Spain has such good mushrooms. I don't know what it is, but that's really the base of the flavor. And then you can also see I'm gonna add in some tofu. I have some coconut milk, better than bouillon, and some Thai green curry is what's in that little jar. And so basically the prep for this was so easy. I just chop everything up and I'm going to saute it together in a big pot and get everything kind of cooked down and caramelized. And again, it's just, I've made this ramen so many times with different ingredients, whatever I have available at the time, but it's always the same. You cook things down and then you're adding a broth to it. You got allowing everything to just infuse and steep in that broth, in that liquid that you make. And there's everything prepped up. And I saute it with some olive oil and some sesame oil. Here's my tofu cut up into little blocks, and this tofu is really kind of softer, so it went perfect in the soup. And once I have everything kind of cooked down and going and really looking good, that's when I add my coconut milk. And I add everything. I add the full can. And then once everything cooks down even a little bit more, I go ahead and add in those tofu blocks and just let them steep and absorb all of that sauce and just get really delicious and yummy. The more that it cooks down to me, the better it is because all that flavor is nice and concentrated. I think I let it go for about 4 hours. And for my toppings, I just have some cilantro. I have some radish. You can see there's some peaches. The peaches have been so good this summer, so that was my little snack that I was snacking on. And then I have some lime wedges for it, and those are some snap green peas that I have over there also for the topping. And in that little glass right there, I'm drinking another sun tea. These are the ramens that I use. Millet and brown rice, but I use a bunch of different kinds, but it's just basically, I think, a gluten-free and a vegan version of the noodles. Yeah, those peaches, I've eaten probably a billion peaches this summer. And that's the final product. You can see I just put everything on top. I added some nice little toasted sesame seeds as well. This was so good. I could eat this every single day. It was absolutely delicious. And finally, this little cute snack plate that I had. But to drink, I had this delicious coconut. These coconuts are like gold to me. They rarely come into my grocery store, and when I get them, I snap them up. This is just a little snack tray. In the middle, there's some really good aged cheese, some pistachios, some fruit and olives, pickles, and this is just such a good snack. I love like a little cheese or snack board. And this was actually for me and my husband, so that's why it's so much. And that is really gonna complete all of the meals that I wanted to highlight. I've just been getting so creative lately. I love food. I love to cook. This is one of the biggest reasons. It's just a creative outlet that's fun and delicious. And lately I've had even more of a focus on just using what I have and trying to utilize every little bit of what I've got. So I hope you enjoyed and be well. Bye.